that's what we're dealing with here. A lot of this made-up garbage that goes viral and that is very harmful to people.
C7 News I-Team digs deeper into a report about alleged misconduct in the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office and the false information that's being spread about this case.
The temperature in San Mateo County politics could not be much higher.
That is so true. And Dan Noyes is back to show you how we got here and, Dan, really where we could be headed.
Well, Dan and Kristen, now keep in mind the 40 current and former employees who spoke to the investigator for the audit were allowed to remain anonymous and did not testify under oath. The sheriff and her chief of staff tell me they are trying to counter many lies as they bring about much needed change in the department.
We noticed that there was no security at all whatsoever.
When the Christina Corpus administration took over the new sheriff's office building, Chief of Staff Victor Iyenjay told me they had to install an $800,000 key card system, metal detectors, and bulletproof glass in the front doors.
And then part of the security for our employees, because we have a lot of employees in there, is that we selected a number of floors to have lockers and put a few rifles in there in case of an emergency. That was the purpose.
Like an active shooter situation.
Absolutely.
Near the offices for the sheriff and her executive staff on the 5th floor, they installed a gun safe to hold 3 suppressed rifles, or rifles with silencers, each labeled.
The sergeant came in with a big bag. He said, here are the 3 rifles, okay? Put them in the safe. And he and I both made a combination of the safe, closed it, shut it.
By the time the 400-page report came out and the Board of Supervisors announced the results, suppressed rifles near the executive offices had become a problem.
He ordered the delivery of suppressed rifles to the sheriff's office last month.
The report listed allegation number 11. Iyenjay, Sheriff Corpus, and her executive team improperly possess suppressed rifles. But retired Judge Ladoris Cordell, who performed the investigation, cleared Sheriff Corpus, her undersheriff and assistant sheriff, but sustained the accusation for Iyenjay because he is not a regular salaried full-time peace officer. Cordell did not mention that Iyenjay has trained extensively as a reserve deputy, including a tactical rifle course, and that he worked for 9 years at the sheriff's firing range as an instructor.
And with everything was going on and how I saw people turning and doing pretty shady things in law enforcement and lying, I wanted to make sure that at least I was protected in that.
After the county executive removed Iyenjay from his chief of staff position, he called Undersheriff Dan Perea, who memorialized the conversation in a memo to the sheriff. Iyenjay asked Perea to change the code to the safe and said, quote, "This is how they are going to try to get me."
What I meant was they were going to try to do something with that, like blame me for something, maybe something goes missing, because there's this narrative that was being creative of I was scary, and that's the furthest from the truth.
On November 15th, a Friday, the sheriff cleared staff from the 5th floor and ordered the rifles removed from the safe.
And that's when the rumors started flying. I received calls from the Board of Supervisors and inside the Sheriff's Department saying that Corpus and her Chief of Staff were under arrest or about to be arrested. All not true.
To have my 85-year-old mother call me crying and asking me if I was okay is not okay. Every one of us has family, and for them to put that nasty rumor out that made it all the way to Sacramento.
Reporters were flooding local, state, and federal investigators with calls asking about a possible arrest. Corpus tells me she never received a single phone call from investigators about the rifles.
Were you ever contacted by the ATF last week?
No, never.
It was just totally made up out of whole cloth.
But that's what we're dealing with here. A lot of this made-up garbage that goes viral and that is very harmful to people. It's wrong.
I have more questions about the report, and we'll have more stories to come. Now, also, the Board of Supervisors is set to hold a second vote next month on a measure that may eventually allow them to remove the sheriff. So, a lot of things happening in several avenues, and we'll just have to keep on reporting.